The orbital structure of Orion Academy floated in the silence above Tau Cygni 4, its metallic surface reflecting the distant light of dying suns. From a distance, it looked peaceful, an architectural marvel suspended in the void. But inside, peace was a myth. The Academy was a forge, built to burn the weakness out of those who thought themselves strong. Cadet Helena Cross stepped through the docking gate, boots clicking softly on the alloy floor. Her uniform was identical to the others, standard gray with a polished insignia, but she carried herself differently. No wasted movement, no glances of curiosity or fear, just calm, quiet purpose. The hallway buzzed with life. Aliens of 20 worlds filled the space. Slender Avrani with translucent skin, broad-shouldered Drexians, a cluster of insectoid Keth whispering through clicks. The humans among them were few, their presence tolerated but never truly accepted. "She's one of them," someone murmured as Helena passed. "The Deathworlders. Impossible. Earth's a restricted sector." "Not anymore. Coalition opened it after the war accords." Helena ignored the voices. She'd heard worse on her first day at the Academy back on Earth, where even her own kind had doubted her right to represent humanity. Words didn't bruise her. They were just noise. At the far end of the hall, the command doors opened. A tall figure entered. Instructor Vek Thalrun, Velkarian combat master, his scales a metallic bronze, his gaze cutting through the room like a blade. His voice carried a weight that silenced every conversation. "Cadets," he began, "you stand within the Coalition's highest training ground. Here your heritage means nothing. Your pride means less. Only obedience and precision matter." He paced slowly, claws clicking. "Each of you will face simulations beyond endurance. Those who falter will be dismissed. Those who resist will be broken." His eyes stopped on Helena. "Especially those from Deathworlds." The room's attention shifted to her. She met his stare without flinching. He smiled faintly, like a predator pleased its prey hadn't run yet. The first test began in the gravitational induction chamber, a vast dome designed to crush and measure strength. Hundreds of cadets stood in formation. Lights dimmed to red as the artificial field activated, dragging them downward. Metal groaned under their boots. Vek's voice echoed through the speakers. "Kneel." Every cadet dropped instantly, every species trained to obey without thought. Every species except one. Helena stood still. The air shimmered around her as the field intensified. Pressure coiled around her body like an invisible vice. Her pulse slowed. Her knees trembled once, but she locked them again. Vek watched from the command platform above, claws flexing in mild irritation. "Human," he called, "your body cannot withstand triple gravity. Submit." She spoke through steady breaths. "If I kneel now, I'll have to learn to stand again later." A ripple passed through the room. Shock, disbelief, maybe even respect. Vek adjusted the controls. The field increased again. Sweat formed at her temple, but her expression remained unchanged. When the test ended, the gravity cut out abruptly. Cadets gasped for air. Helena straightened as though waking from meditation. Vek's tone turned cold. "Defiance is not courage, Cadet Cross, it's arrogance. You'll learn the difference." She gave a single nod. "Yes, Instructor." But her eyes said something else entirely. The mess hall was chaos. Voices, motion, a dozen languages colliding. Helena sat alone at the far end, eating with mechanical calm. Across from her, a group of Tharn cadets, tall, pale, amphibious, watched her like children studying a strange animal. One of them leaned over. "Human, is it true your world kills you if you sleep outside?" Helena didn't look up. "Sometimes. Depends on the continent." The Tharn laughed, though uneasily. "Your species shouldn't have survived at all." She finally met his gaze. "We didn't survive. We adapted." That ended the conversation. The Tharn turned back to his table, muttering. The rest of the hall kept glancing her way, as if waiting for her to prove or disprove every rumor they'd heard about her kind. She finished her meal quietly and left. Training consumed the next several weeks. The Academy's regimen was brutal even by alien standards. Gravitic combat, neural simulations, sensory deprivation. Most cadets folded at least once. Helena never did. She didn't boast or compete. She simply endured. And that endurance unsettled people. During a survival drill, she carried a wounded Drexian across 2 kilometers of simulated battlefield while her own suit malfunctioned. When questioned why, she only said, he would have done the same. The Drexian later admitted he wouldn't have. That made the story spread faster. By the end of the month, whispers followed her everywhere. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't complain. She doesn't kneel, Instructor Vec noticed too. His contempt deepened each day she refused to react to provocation. For him, obedience wasn't about control. It was religion, and Helena's silence was blasphemy. One evening after drills, he called her to the combat arena. The chamber was dim, illuminated only by the pulse of suspended energy fields. Cadet Cross, he began, circling her slowly. Do you know why the Coalition endures? She stood at attention. Because it unites strength. Wrong. His tail lashed the floor. Because it enforces order, discipline, submission to the chain of command. Helena met his gaze. Order without integrity collapses the moment no one's watching. Vec's jaw tensed. You're clever for a Deathworld primitive, but cleverness doesn't protect you here. I wasn't aware I needed protection, sir. The silence stretched. Then he leaned closer, voice low. Tomorrow the obedience drill begins. You will kneel when commanded. Everyone will. Her answer was simple. Understood. He waited, expecting fear or sarcasm. He found neither. Only that quiet, unreadable calm. That night, she sat by her cabin's viewport, the planet below turning like a pale marble beneath the nebula's light. She removed the insignia from her uniform, a small metal emblem shaped like a broken chain. It was worn smooth by time, a relic of Earth's resistance core. She remembered her mother's words before she left. They'll test you. Not to see if you're strong, but to see if you'll break politely. Helena turned the emblem over in her hand, then pinned it back to her chest. Outside, a storm moved across the planet's surface, lightning tracing rivers of light through endless cloud banks. It looked like home, chaos contained by silence. Tomorrow's drill would not be about obedience. It would be about truth. About what happened when a species built for survival was told to kneel. She set her alarm, stood, and looked once more through the glass. The reflection that stared back wasn't anger or pride, it was focus, a quiet resolve honed sharp enough to cut through humiliation. When she lay down, the hum of the station filled the silence like a slow heartbeat. Sleep came quickly, dreamless and deep. In the morning, the Academy would learn what a Deathworlder's defiance looked like. And by the time it was over, none of them, including Instructor Vec, would ever forget the day one human refused to bend. The dawn lights of Orion Academy bled through the reinforced glass, washing the corridors in sterile gold. Every cadet marched toward the grand hall in silence. It wasn't a normal drill morning. The air was heavier, more charged, as if the station itself sensed what was about to unfold. Helena Cross entered with the same unhurried steps as always, eyes forward, expression calm. Around her, whispers followed like a low current. That's her, the human who refused the instructor's order last cycle. She'll be gone after today. At the far end stood Instructor Vec Thalrun, framed by banners of the Galactic Coalition. His bronze scales gleamed under the overhead light, and his claws gripped the command rod like a weapon. Every cadet knew what that meant. This wasn't a lesson. It was an execution of reputation. Cadets, he began, his voice cutting through the room like a metallic roar. Today's ritual marks the foundation of command. Obedience is civilization. Submission to order is strength. The crowd responded with a synchronized chant. Every species had their version of the kneeling creed. Vec raised his arm, and the gravity field pulsed once, a low hum vibrating through the deck. He looked directly at Helena. When the order is given, every cadet kneels. There are no exceptions. The Coalition does not make allowances for primitive customs. Her reply was calm, unprovocative. Understood, Instructor. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut through thought. Then, with ceremonial weight, Vec lowered his command rod. Kneel. All across the hall, cadets dropped to one knee. The motion was fluid, automatic, 1,000 bodies yielding to one voice. But in the midst of them, one figure remained upright. Helena didn't move. Her shadow stretched across the polished floor, stark against the kneeling ranks. The hum of the gravity field deepened, the air thickening. Vec turned toward her, slow and deliberate. "You defy a direct order," he said. "I'm standing at attention, sir," she answered evenly. No defiance intended. He descended from the dais, every step echoing through the silent chamber. The floor's alloy trembled beneath the amplified weight of his presence. When he stopped before her, the air felt heavier still. "You think yourself beyond correction?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Helena's jaw tightened, but her tone stayed even. "I think there's a difference between respect and submission." A murmur rippled through the kneeling cadets. Vec's expression hardened. "You misunderstand the purpose of this exercise." "No, sir. I understand it perfectly." He slammed his command rod against the floor. The gravitational field spiked instantly, quadruple standard pressure. Cadets around her gasped, forced lower. Some fell forward entirely. But Helena didn't yield. Her legs strained, breath steady, chest rising against the crushing weight. Vec circled her, the edges of his armor scraping faintly. "You think endurance excuses arrogance?" "Endurance isn't arrogance," she replied through controlled breaths. "It's proof that I still stand," his nostrils flared. "You confuse defiance for courage." "I confuse nothing, sir." The gravity doubled again. The lights flickered under the power draw. The metal beneath her boots shuddered as if it might crack. Helena's muscles trembled, but her gaze never dropped. Across the hall, cadets whispered prayers to their homeworlds. Some couldn't look away. It wasn't rebellion they saw, it was something older, harder to define. Vec stepped closer, his voice nearly a growl. "Kneel or I will make you." She met his gaze. "Then you'll have to try." The instructor froze for a heartbeat, startled by the quiet confidence in her tone. He moved faster than expected, his hand shot forward, claws aiming for her shoulder. But before contact, Helena shifted her stance. Her arm rose, not in aggression but pure reaction, redirecting his strike just enough to throw him off balance. The movement was minimal, clean, practiced. The sound of his boots scraping against the floor broke the trance. Gasps erupted around them. A Valkyrian instructor, thrown off balance by a human cadet. Helena straightened, breathing calm again. "Permission to return to formation, sir?" Her words were a scalpel. Vec's rage simmered beneath his skin, his scales glowing faintly from the heat of it. He raised his voice for the hall. "You think this is defiance without consequence? You disgrace your species and this academy." Helena's voice stayed level. "Then punish me for disobedience, not for standing." "You will be confined," he hissed. Understood. He wanted her to beg. She didn't. He wanted her to apologize. She wouldn't. The silence became unbearable. Finally, he turned, addressing the class. "Dismissed. This display will not be repeated. In this hall, there is no room for individual pride." Cadets scrambled to their feet, careful not to meet Helena's eyes as they filed out. But every one of them had seen what happened, and none would forget. Hours later, Helena sat alone in a small detainment room, bare walls, one steel table, 2 chairs. Her uniform was immaculate, though her knuckles were faintly bruised from bracing under the gravity surge. The door hissed open. Commander Saren Var, the Academy's senior adjudicator, entered. Unlike Vec, his demeanor was calm, analytical. He studied her in silence before sitting opposite. "You understand why you're here?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "You disobeyed a direct order." "I refused to kneel, sir." "There's a difference." His expression didn't change. "You've created a diplomatic problem, Cadet. The Valkyrian Council oversees much of our funding. They won't appreciate this spectacle." "Was the Academy's discipline meant to uphold unity?" she asked quietly. "Or to protect pride?" Saren leaned back, studying her face. "You sound like a soldier who's already chosen a side." "I have," she said simply. "Humanities. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the commander exhaled, tapping the table once. "You've been suspended from active drills pending review. Instructor Vec demands a public apology tomorrow." Helena's gaze didn't waver. "That won't happen. Then you'll be expelled." She nodded once. "If that's the price for standing, I'll pay it." Saren studied her again, really studied her this time. Something in his expression softened, though his tone remained formal. "You remind me of the first humans who came here 50 years ago. They didn't kneel either. Most didn't survive long enough to graduate." "Then they set the standard," she said quietly. He didn't argue. He stood, signaling the end of the conversation. "You'll report to the disciplinary council at dawn." When the door sealed behind him, Helena exhaled slowly, letting her heartbeat settle. She wasn't angry, just resolved. The confrontation wasn't over. Vec wouldn't let it end with words. Through the small viewport, the stars burned cold and bright. She thought of Earth, not the politics or wars, but the relentless sky, the gravity that never lessened. She'd grown up under that pull. Everything since had felt lighter. She closed her eyes and leaned back against the cold wall. Tomorrow she would face them again. And if they asked her to kneel, she already knew her answer. The disciplinary chamber was designed for intimidation, vaulted ceilings, mirrored walls, and silence that carried weight. Dozens of cadets filled the observation balconies, whispering as the tribunal assembled. For them, this wasn't just punishment. It was spectacle. Humanity versus hierarchy. Helena Cross entered escorted by 2 guards. She didn't resist or glance at the audience. Her uniform was spotless, posture straight, eyes calm. She looked like someone reporting for duty, not someone about to be expelled. At the center, Instructor Vec Thalrun stood beside the council dais. His expression was carved from contempt. The bronze scales along his jaw caught the light, giving him a predatory sheen. He had prepared for this, his speech, his anger, even his triumph. Commander Saren Var presided. "Cadet Cross, you stand accused of insubordination and physical interference with an instructor during authorized drills. How do you plead?" "Not guilty," Helena said clearly. The room murmured. Saren's brow furrowed. "You do not deny refusing a direct order." "I deny that obedience means submission, sir," she said. "Standing is not rebellion. It's integrity." Vec stepped forward. "Integrity?" His voice hissed like metal grinding against stone. "You embarrassed your superiors before the entire class. You assaulted a coalition instructor." "I blocked a strike, sir," Helena replied evenly. Reflex, not aggression. Vec's tail lashed the floor. "You are a danger to unity. Humans think chaos is courage." Helena turned toward him fully. "And Valkyrians think control is strength. Maybe we're both wrong." A sharp intake of breath swept through the room. Even Saren hesitated before speaking. "Instructor Vec, we've reviewed surveillance of the incident. The cadet's behavior was not violent." Vec's nostrils flared. "You cannot allow this insolence to stand. The others are watching. Discipline must be restored." Helena met his gaze. "Then restore it properly, through a test, not a lecture." The suggestion froze the air. Vec laughed, a deep, resonant sound without warmth. "You propose a challenge?" "Against me?" "Yes, sir," she said quietly. "Under Coalition Code 7.5, Trial of Conduct. Let the field decide." Saren's eyes narrowed. It was an old rule, almost forgotten. A cadet could challenge an instructor to a controlled duel of principle, not for rank, but truth. It was rarely invoked because it carried risk to both reputation and life. Vec smiled, all teeth. "Accepted. When you fall, every human name will fall with you." Helena's expression didn't change. "If I fall, I'll do it standing." The combat arena was vast and circular, its floor a shifting lattice of energy fields that could simulate gravity, resistance, even heat. The crowd gathered along the observation platforms, every cadet drawn to witness what had already become legend. Vec entered first, shedding his ceremonial cloak for a combat harness. His claws gleamed, his tail coiled for balance. "No weapons," he declared. "Let us see what Earth's feral blood can do." Helena stepped into the ring. No armor, no enhancements, just the standard Academy uniform and the insignia pinned to her chest, the broken chain of the Deathworld Corps. The gravity field activated with a low hum. Pressure settled around them, moderate but rising. "Begin," Saren announced. Vec moved first, fast for his size, claws sweeping in a blur. Helena ducked under the first strike, pivoting lightly. His second swing followed instantly. She sidestepped, catching his wrist and redirecting the momentum past her shoulder. The motion was clean, efficient, learned in real wars, not simulations. "Too slow," she said softly. Vex snarled, shifting tactics. His tail lashed low, forcing her to jump. He feinted left, then drove forward with a burst of power. Helena twisted midair, landing with her back to him. He swung again. She dropped, sweeping his leg with a kick that used his own forward motion against him. He staggered. The crowd gasped, but he recovered instantly, fury replacing precision. The floor's gravity surged at his command, tripling in an instant. Helena's boots sank half an inch into the metallic surface. Her spine straightened under the pressure. She exhaled through it. "You can't carry that weight forever," he said. She looked up, sweat beading at her temple. "I carried worse before I could walk." He lunged again, claws raised high. She didn't retreat. At the last second, she moved inside the strike, locking both arms around his outstretched limb. Using his mass and the pull of gravity itself, she pivoted, an old Deathworld combat maneuver meant for predators larger than humans. Vec crashed to one knee. The deck reverberated with the impact. The silence that followed was deafening. Helena stepped back, breathing hard but controlled. She didn't gloat, didn't speak. She simply waited. Vec rose slowly, rage burning behind his eyes. "You think this proves anything?" "It proves I don't kneel to fear," she said, he roared, charging. She dodged left, redirected again, each motion economical, never wasted. When his strike finally landed, she absorbed it, turning the blow into a grapple. The two locked together in a brutal test of leverage. His claws dug shallowly into her shoulder, drawing blood. She drove her knee upward, hitting the pressure point at the base of his armor joint. He fell again. Harder this time. Helena caught his arm before he hit the ground completely and, with deliberate control, pressed him down. The energy field reacted to her command input, standard override code for submission verification. The system recognized the shift in authority. Gravity intensified around him, forcing him to one knee. The instructor's roar echoed through the chamber, but the system's hold was absolute. The watching cadets saw it clearly, the Valkyrian kneeling before a human. Helena stepped back, chest rising and falling, voice steady. "You wanted obedience. Now you have it." Saren rose from the observation platform, his voice carrying over the silence. "The duel is over. Instructor Vec has yielded under the code." Vec struggled against the field, his pride burning hotter than the pain. But when he finally looked up, what he saw wasn't victory in her eyes. It was restraint. She could have humiliated him further, but she didn't. That made it worse. Helena deactivated the field. The pressure faded. Vec remained on one knee for a moment longer before rising, face tight with fury and disbelief. She saluted him formally. "Instructor," he stared at her. "You think you've won something?" "No," she said softly. "But maybe the next human here won't have to fight for the right to stand." Later, in the empty observation hall, Saren found her standing by the viewport. Beyond the glass, the stars drifted like silent witnesses. "You realize what you've done?" he said. "Yes." "Sir, you humiliated a senior instructor and shattered a cultural tradition older than our alliance." Helena looked out at the void. "Then maybe it needed breaking." He studied her profile, the quiet certainty in her stance. "The council will decide your fate tomorrow, but no matter their ruling, the story has already escaped this station." "I know," she said. "They'll twist it. Maybe I'm a hero, maybe a warning." Saren nodded. "Either way, you've reminded them what humanity truly is." She smiled faintly. "We just don't kneel easy." The commander left her there, staring into the endless dark. Below, the transmission logs carried the footage of the duel across every channel in the Academy, and within hours, across a dozen worlds. On some planets, she'd be called insolent. On others, courageous. But on Earth, where gravity had shaped bones and resolve in equal measure, they'd call her exactly what she was, human. and somewhere deep within the Academy's encrypted archives, the record was permanently marked. Cadet Helena Cross stood when others knelt.